So inshallah, today what we're going to do is it will be a revision on all of the labs that we have done so far, and we'll try to build an application for the beneficiary part, and inshallah this application will help you do well also in the coming exam on Saturday for those of you who are willing to retake. So the application will be designed will be something like this. We will have a list, and we'll have some list items like this. Okay, and then we will also have a button at the bottom, which will be kind of a floating point button, and when the user clicks on this button, we will be adding, for example, a user. Okay, let me see. Okay. Okay, so something like this. And we'll have another screen again, of which is similar to this one, but this time if they click on the add button, we'll allow them to add a new beneficiary, and we'll also have a button that allows them to delete. Okay, so there will be a button here where if they want to delete the user, they can delete this user, this beneficiary, I mean. Okay, so this is the application we'll be creating. We'll see many things. We'll see how we can create navigations between fragments, how to create fragments. We'll see data binding. We'll see recycler views, how we use recycler views, and also we're going to see how we can use retrofit and view models also. So basically everything you have taken, we'll try to revise it. We'll create the project from scratch, so there is nothing given to you except the design. Even the design, the first one we will design it, but because it's repetitive, we'll try to reuse again some of the design I already pre-created for you, so you don't spend a lot of time. But of course, at least we will design one of them, so you also see the design. Okay, so without further ado, let's start. Please go ahead and create a new project. I'll create my project in Lab 9, so in case you want me to share, I will share it with you. But please, I advise you today, all of you who are here, to work with me and like to try it yourself, the whole project. Okay, try to attempt it without waiting me or without getting any code from anywhere, so you understand what and how to do everything in one go. So go ahead and start creating a new project, empty project. Next, and then we'll call it beneficiary app, okay, or dash review. I'll call it review, and I'll create it inside our GitHub. But for you, you have to create it in your own repository. Okay. Okay. And I expect a lot of questions from you today. The more you ask, the better, because that's how you will understand everything. If you had some problems, let's say with view models, with data binding, with recycler views, today will be, I think, the best time to ask. Okay. Because from next week again, we'll start new topics. We'll not have any more reviews, of course, so this is the best time. All right, so everybody please create a new project, a blank project. Okay, it should look like this. And as I told you, this is the app that we are creating. It will look something like this. Okay, so you will have a list of beneficiaries. You can add, update, delete them, and you will have multiple screens, of course, that you can navigate through. All right, so create the new project. When you are done, I will keep asking questions so I know that you are following up and I'm not way ahead of you. So please keep on responding to my form. So if you are done creating the new project, please press yes so we go forward. And I expect everybody to be voting, huh? Please vote if you have created a new project. Others, we have only 5 people who voted here. Did you create?
Doctor, just came in, so I'm creating the project right now.
Okay, just okay. Please do it fast. Because we are covering a lot of topics today. That's why it's important that everybody be very sharp and following every step quickly. One more thing while the others are creating, the way we're going like this, because we have already taken all of these concepts, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in majority of the things because I expect you to know, and just this is a kind of a revision, okay? So, for example, I'm not going to show you how to put a button here and then what is an on-click listener and so on. So I expect you to know this thing. So whenever I say, for example, let's go ahead and add an action for this, or let's add a listener to this button, please don't wait. You just have to go there and then start adding the on-click listener yourself, okay? If I say, for example, let's go ahead and then get the data from the form, you should know that you should use like get text, get text, get text, and then start doing with me. So that way the lab will go much smoother. But if you're waiting until I type everything, it will be very hard for you to follow up, okay? So it's consider it like we are doing it together, and I'm just guiding you through the whole process, okay? When I say, for example, let's go create adapter, go and create adapter. Let's go create this, you go ahead and create it, okay?
Okay.
All right, so let's start now. That is my. All right, so the project, you can approach it in two ways. One way is to start from the data, or the other way is to start from the design. I think I will usually approach such projects because it's a very big project. Now, the way you should approach it is first create the classes that you're going to use for the data. In our case, we are going to have one class, and let me show you first of all the data, how it looks like. So this is a beneficiary. It will have a name, an account, and an ID. It will have name, account, customer ID, and then some unique ID that represents this specific beneficiary. Okay, so let's create this object, and to do that we have to create, of course, the class of that object. And we will right click new package, and we'll say model, and then inside the model let's create one class, a Kotlin file or class, and then we call it beneficiary. Okay, beneficiary, remember cancel. All right, now beneficiary will have the following properties, and let's go ahead and create those properties in the constructor of the beneficiary. The first one is name. It's var name string. Okay. Second one is we will make them all var. Just make them var name string, var account number string.
Doctor, why are we initializing them?
I'm initializing them because later on when we are adding or updating, we will be able to create an object called beneficiary without the data, because when I create beneficiary, I say val beneficiary, then I can say equals to beneficiary without giving it the data. Then I can do something like beneficiary dot account number equals to something. Okay, if I don't initialize it like this, then my constructor will complain and say, hey, go ahead and then do something. So I'm just giving them some default values so I can have this empty object later. Okay, we will make it a data class. Okay, so this is perfect so far. The next step we're going to do is actually, before moving anywhere, we have to import all of my dependencies. So today we're going to use all the dependencies that we used so far, which is coroutines, view models, retrofit, serialization, and so on. So material design, so everything will be used. So to simplify our life, please go ahead, open the lab 8 project, and in lab 8 you will have the, let me open it, file, open recent, and lab 8 banking app. Okay, so I'm going to start copy pasting this stuff. Okay, so I'll copy everything that's in Gradle from here. Okay, so this part is already there for us, but we don't have all of this. So let's go ahead and copy this part that says implementation, allows us to buy view models and this and that. So just copy everything related to view models, serialization, navigation graph, retrofit, and live data. So just copy all of this and bring them into your build.module and paste them here. So now we are done the first step. Again, let's copy more stuff, which is the allowing our application to use data binding, which is here, future data binding true. I will copy this one and paste it here. The other thing is I need to copy this 2 lines, which says Kotlin serialization and Android extensions, and I'll put them above. They'll be using the internet. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
Sorry,
وعليكم السلام.
my router decided to just restart itself. Let me share the screen again. Okay. All right. So we were doing the copying of the. We're doing the copying of the dependencies. So I copied now all the dependencies here, and I'm going to copy again all the dependencies that we're missing from the build project. Okay. So in the project, we only have one dependency. I don't need the navigation, the save arcs, because we will be using view models. Just copy this one, and I'll paste it here in the build Gradle project. Okay. Right. Now sync your project, and everything should just work fine. Okay. All right. So okay, I'll say okay. Apply suggestions. Let it run in the background. Now we have to always remember this word. You have to keep on celebrating these small successes. What I mean is, right now we created a model class here, and I also added this stuff. So the best thing to do is at this time is to just run your project just to see if you haven't done anything that's breaking your project. Okay, because if you keep and then let's say after writing so much code you try to run your application, of course it might crash. Okay, so you have to always have this small steps of success that you can check, and then if that works, then you go ahead and do more, and if that works, you go ahead and do more and more and more. Okay, of course I'm not saying, for example, in the exam, maybe if you are stuck in somewhere, what the best way is also to comment out that code and then move on to the next step, whatever that's working for you. However, just in projects or any other things, always try to kind of have this small success where, okay, my application is now compiling and running. Okay, so we added, perfect. Now we go back to our model class, and then we have to add that, if you remember, add serializable, because we will be using the serialization library to serialize it, okay, to the server. Okay, so that's it. I did my model, and I have imported everything I need. And let's close all this now. Now the third step after this is to create our data. So I'll say right click new, and I'll say package and data, and inside data we'll create two packages. Right click new package and one API, and right click new package, and the other one I'm going to call it repository. But be careful here when you are creating, I don't want data API repository. I want repository to be inside data, so I need to remove the API part and then put repository. So now I will have two packages side by side. One is API and one is repository. Of course, you can start from the API and also do the repository, but because this needs me to have configuration of the server, and it's very hard to test if the server is successfully working or not. And instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a repository that is kind of having some static data, and then I will change that data to become a dynamic later on. I'll show you what I mean. Go to the repository and let's create the repository object. So I'll create an object and I'll call it beneficiary. By the way, we will be typing this word so many times today. I will advise you this word, just copy it and keep it with you so you don't have to keep typing this again and again. this word saying beneficiary, okay? And I will say beneficiary repo. And inside beneficiary repo is where we will be initializing our retrofit object and so on. But in the beginning, we will not do that. We'll use something that is that's static, okay? Just to check my application if it's working or not. And then later on, I will go back and make this thing dynamic to come from the server. So I'll say var, and let's say beneficiaries. So I'm going to create a list of beneficiaries equals to list of, and I'll say beneficiary. And this list of beneficiaries will be just fake beneficiaries, okay? So they will for testing purpose, to test my navigation, to test the rest of my application. I don't need to first develop the whole APIs, because maybe I might make a mistake there and my entire application could get stuck. So I can have static data for testing, and then later on I will come back and just write the server. Okay, so let's create one beneficiary. I'll say the first beneficiary, I'm gonna create Sarah, and the account number is also a string. So let's create 123. Her CID is an integer 890, and her ID is also a string. But ID, we don't need it. We don't have to give ID because the server is going to generate the ID for us. But no problem, just give whatever you want. It doesn't matter anything. Or just don't even write the ID because the server is going to do for us this. Okay, I will copy one again, another one, and then let's put comma, and I'm gonna have another one, and this one will be Abir, and let's have one.
Doctor,
Yes,
I keep having error in the Gradle.
you keep having an error in the Gradle.
Yeah, when I think, it gave me an error.
Did you put in the proper order like this, and then you closed, everything is closed? Can you check like if your dependency is properly closed, if you have added these two lines, and if you have also added this one line? So this is one inside project, then you have these two lines, and you can copy all of this from the previous project that we have done. Okay, these two lines, then you have also this feature, and the last one is all of this. Okay,
Okay.
so if you add these things in the build.gradle, they should work. And that's the important thing. See, now she tested her Gradle and it crashed on her, which is important that to know early crashes before she goes and develops a lot more code. Okay. All right, I will go back to our beneficiary repository.
Doctor,
Yes.
can I see the beneficiary class? Because I completed the attributes, the variables.
Okay, so there is name here. From
Yeah.
here you can understand it, okay? But I will open for you, no problem. So this is the beneficiary class, okay?
Okay, string, multi-string. Okay, thank you.
And I will paste it for you also in the chat if you would like to use it. Right, so how do I know how to declare these things? This is a string, this is number, this is this. Is because when I call my server, I can clearly see that I would say, for example, get beneficiaries, I will be given this routes. And when I say get, I'm going to get some beneficiaries listed here. And those beneficiaries is what I will use. For example, in this, I can see here a beneficiary has a name, an account, a CID, and an ID. And I can see, for example, this quotation, so it's an integer, this ones have quotation, so they must be strings, okay? This is how you design your class. All right, so now we have designed this the beneficiary, class, and we also created a couple of fake beneficiaries that are here, not in the server. Okay, why am I doing this? It's just to speed up my testing process. Then I will say a suspend function, and I'll say get beneficiaries. I told you to copy this, so make sure you have a copy of this beneficiary name. I'll say get beneficiary, or let's call it get beneficiaries, because we're going to return a lot of beneficiaries. And then we will say this is going to be equals to this list of beneficiaries. So we'll say beneficiaries. You see, it's acting as if we are doing a network call, but we are not doing any network call now. Of course, in the future, we must do some network call where we will be using our API. But I don't want to develop the whole API until I'm sure that my entire application is working. So I'm kind of dissecting my application into smaller pieces and working on that small piece. If that works for me, I will go to the another small piece, and then eventually my hope is everything to work together as one unit. Okay. All right. So I can see this will, yes. Okay. So I can see now this will work for me, because I can even write a small main function here, and I could say print beneficiary repo dot get beneficiaries, not beneficiary, get beneficiaries. Make this one private so the people don't see it outside. So I'll say get beneficiaries, and this is now giving me back a suspend function, and it's saying that, hey, you cannot run a suspend function. So we can say we could run it inside a coroutine. So we can say global scope dot launch and do this beneficiary here. All right, and in here you can change from app. I don't want to run the entire app. I want to run only this function. So you can right click and do run beneficiary with coverage, or this one. So you can say run beneficiary repo KT, which means this application is this file is the only file that we are running, and it will run here in our application here. Okay. Right, so it's okay, beneficiaries. Yes, so now I am not able to see anything, and the reason being that is my class, data class is supposed to be running. Okay, print numbers. Okay, let's see. Print get beneficiary report dot get beneficiaries. Of course, I'm 100% sure it's gonna run this, but it's just to, you see now I have my beneficiaries listed like this. So I know this is running fine, and I'm just gonna bring my suspend function, delete this, and just continue with my application. Okay. Now the next step is I have the data that I can use for my application. Now I need to start designing my the rest of my app. Okay. Again, this is what we did. We created a simple object, created a suspend function that's going to return back a list of beneficiaries. Okay. Let's go and design now the navigation. So the next step is to design the navigation. We go to our resources. We clicked on the left hand side. This is the resources. We search for navigation here. It's here. That's the navigation. If you don't have it here, you can search it in the 3 dots. And then we press on the plus sign, navigation resource file, and we'll call it the nav graph. And then you press OK. Now in the nav graph, this is where you start designing now your navigations. In my case, I need to have a place where I can list. I have a list of beneficiaries, Then I will have a place to add beneficiaries, and then I have another screen that's going to allow me to update beneficiaries, and one that's going to show the details. So I have this couple of screens, okay? And let's design them. So I'll say the first screen will be to list beneficiaries. So I'll say create new destination, fragment blank, next. Remember, I copied my, I copied many more stuff. Copy, undo, paste. So just keep this name beneficiary with you. So the first fragment will be list beneficiary list fragment. So I'll say beneficiary list fragment, and this is the first one, and I would say finish. So this is like the list of beneficiaries. Again, I will add again another one. I'll say create new destination, click in the blank fragment, next, and I will paste again beneficiary, and I'll say this will be beneficiary or I would say add beneficiary fragment. So I will have the add beneficiary fragment, finish. I'm not done yet. I'm just gonna bring my screens like this, and then I'll keep on adding all of my screens, the screens I need, which is another one is update beneficiary fragment, and another one is beneficiary detail fragment. So I'll say next, and beneficiary details fragment, finish, and that's it, I think. So we have the add, the update, and the listing. Okay, so now the next step is to connect these guys and do all of the connection. So the first one that we will see, the user should see, is the beneficiary list fragment. So the list of beneficiaries should be the first one to be seen, and I will put it in the first one, and I will make it home on the home icon. So if you click on this and press on home, this becomes the first screen in the graph. And if I click on this one and press on home, this becomes now the first one in the graph. Okay. All right, so let me minimize this guys on the left hand side. I have this as the first one. The second one is if they click on this beneficiary, they of course can update directly. So this is connected with this, or they could of course do add, or they could see the details. Okay, so they could also see the details. So I can now do like go, you can see the beneficiary details, or from here you can do the add. Now again, this depends, it will always depend on the design that you are given. For example, in the exam you might be given a design where this connection is not there, so the detail is there, but the update might happen after, let's say for example, after I see the details, then maybe the detail will have a way to update. So that means the connection is first beneficiary to list, and then from list to update. So there is no problem. You just have to connect them like this. So the step is first here, then here, then here. So you just connect, the connection is like this. But the way we are designing right now, it might be different, which is I'm designing it in a way where the update happens directly from a button that is found inside the list fragment. So you have to be very flexible, that you should be able to work with any scenario. If any scenario is given to you where this screen is found after 3 steps, no problem. You just have to just make it after 3 steps. Let's say, for example, the user can first, I don't know, like show this, then this screen, then this screen, then finally this screen. No problem. So this is how you connect them. You connect from here to here, from here to here. So the connection, you should be flexible in doing all of this different scenarios depending on what's given to you and what you have been asked to do, or this problem you are solving. Okay. So I'll press undo to bring back my original sequence, which is the list connects to the details. The list also can connect to the add, and also it can connect to the update. Okay, so this is now my connection. And of course, you can zoom in, zoom out using here, or zoom in, zoom out from here, okay? Or control plus, control minus, or you can use the mouse to do this. All right, so I have my update, my beneficiary, all of this are found here, and I'm happy with this, with my connections. Now all I need to do is give this IDs, this links. I just need to give them a proper ID, which means, of course, like the ID that is generated here is perfect, but sometimes maybe you might need an ID that's memorable or easier to remember. So you can click on this action. This is called an action line. Click in here and then just let's keep it as two beneficiary fragments. So I just named this one two beneficiary fragment because I'm going to beneficiary fragment. So the ID becomes two beneficiary fragment, and I can say refactor. So I change the ID to two beneficiary fragments. Already writing it, by the way, you just have to only modify the last part. And in here you can see, let me make it bigger. It says action beneficiary list to something. I'll only keep the two part and then delete this part and make it camel cased, so I can easily remember the ID on. And this will be to add beneficiary, and I would say to add beneficiary, okay? Now, of course, there is one thing you need to be really careful. If more than one, let's say, for example, this one is beneficiary, can go to this beneficiary details. What if update also can go to this guy? Now, you cannot make it also this one to beneficiary and then this to beneficiary. So both of them will conflict. So you have to make sure now you use this longer ID, which says from update beneficiary fragment to this one, from beneficiary list fragment to this one. So don't conflict with each other, okay? But in our case, we don't have a scenario like that. That's why I'm keeping these shorter names, because they are more elegant and easier to remember for me later on. All right, other things you can change, of course, is this. So the fragments, they have these ugly names. The label says, for example, for my beneficiary list fragment, it says fragment beneficiary list. So you could also change these labels into a nicer label that says beneficiary and then list. So on the top of the screen, a very nice, elegant name will be displayed on the top, okay? And always, it's a wise thing to extract this information into toString, so they stay in the toString if you want to do translations in the future, okay? Beneficiary like that, okay? And also fragment here, and I can say update and beneficiary, okay? And so on. So that way your fragments will look very elegant and the design will be very nice. Okay, that's it. So once you do this, you are done with the design. It should not take you more than 3 minutes maximum. I spent a lot of time just explaining the different concepts, but it's like just create quickly the fragments, connect them quickly, and finish, and move into the next step, which is, of course, making the design of this guy's each fragment's design. Okay, now let's go ahead and go to the first one, which is this beneficiary list. And now I can go to the beneficiary list here and go layout, have this beneficiary list. So what is a beneficiary list? Beneficiary list will be in here a recycler view. So the first thing I will do is I will change this frame layout to constraint layout. So I'll right click, convert this layout to constraint layout, finish. I have a constraint layout. I don't need this ID that says frame layout. So it stays constraint layout, and just drag one recycler view, drop it here. Now I have my recycler view here, and I will use this maybe magic wand to refer to all the four corners, and which is the infer constraint. So you can infer all of the constraint, and it's done. Save. The next step is to add a floating action button that has the plus sign here, and the way I add it is I will first I can add it by writing float here. This is the floating action button. If I drag it and drop it here, I can add it, but I don't have the plus icon. You see? So first I need to create the plus icon to be able to use this floating action bar, because floating action button, it needs an icon. So how do we create the icon? No problem. We can go to the res folder, right click new, and then we will go to the resource file vector here. There is a vector asset. So right click new vector asset and quickly create the plus sign by writing add. And you see when I say add, you can of course choose any of these ones. I will choose this one, the one that has this circle, and I can of course pick some specific color for it. Next, finish.
Doctor, again, from where did you go?
Right click, new, vector asset.
Okay.
And then you can click on the clip art here, and you can search here any of the vector assets that are available for you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So next, once you finish that, you will have your vector asset inside drawable. And now when we drag and drop this this icon, we should get the plus icon here immediately. So I will select that plus
Doctor?
icon. Yeah.
So when creating any button, if you want to add a vector asset, there's also a fast way. Instead of having to go and make it and then come back with the icon, when you add the button and then it gives you that screen to
Yes.
yeah, you can add it. You can add a vector asset from the same place.
Yes, 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 she's right. So she's saying whenever you do this, you can of course add it from here itself, like by pressing here on the corner and then vector asset. Okay.
It could
So
be
you
easier
could,
for them to remember. So
yeah, thank you for the reminder. So yes, you could also, of course, once you drag the button, you could press here on the left corner and then do the vector asset from here. All right, thank you. So that's it. Then we can, of course, click in this one, then you can press this and it will just refer from this to, and now we have the floating action button. Now we need two things now to do in this screen. First one is to change this floating action button ID to something that says add BTN basically. So this will be our add BTN. So when they are clicking on this, it will be called add BTN. And my recycler view, I'm going to make it the beneficiary list recycler. So I can say beneficiary and then recycler view. Of course, you can keep it as recycler view, it doesn't matter. But if you want to be very specific of, you might have many recycler views. So if you want to be very specific of what this recycler view is doing, you could give it a proper name. Okay. Okay, so I am done with the beneficiary list, and just save it. And the next step is to have recycler views, they need list item. So we need to create that list item layout. So I will right click here, new, and then layout resource file, and then I can call it here again, just I told you to copy this name, just keep it with you, copy it, beneficiary list item, so you don't have to type this beneficiary all the time. And I have now beneficiary list item here. Okay, so this list item will have a name and it will have account number and it will have some buttons. So what it will, the design will be something like this. So there will be here a text, there will be an image button. So, or yeah, image, I can have an image button, which is somewhere there. And this image button will be of a trash. Okay, a bin or delete. Yeah, so it will be this delete or this one. It's up to you, but we can select this one. So I have like a delete button there. I have a text here, and I will have another text next to this one. And of course, I can select all the three, right click on them, align them vertically, so they will be nicely aligned like this, and I can select my constraint layout and now do wrap content. You have to always make the height wrap content because you want your list item to be as big as this. You don't want your list item to be like anywhere, and you can of course again align the whole thing in this. So let's not do that. But anyways, this is, for example, one way, and then you can choose the infer constraint to have a very nice nice constraint infer. Okay. Now, I don't want you to redesign all of this. I have already created the design for you. So all you have to do now is go ahead and copy the design that I provided. So I provided a design for the list item here. Just you can either open it, copy the text inside it, and then bring it into your application, or otherwise you can copy the whole thing and then paste it. But I will do the other way, which is just copy paste the text, and you should have this nice design here now. Okay. We don't have to design from scratch because we don't want to spend a lot of time in designing. I know you girls are all good in doing this. So just design, and this is the design basically just created. Okay, once you do this, this is the design of our application. Of course, there is something we are missing, which is the data binding. We don't want to do set text from the other side. We want to pass an object of beneficiary, and we want this layout to take care of the setting of this data. So we need to convert this layout into a layout that can accept data binding. And the way we do data binding is very simple. We minimize this whole thing, okay, the beneficiary list. We cut it, and then we write layout. We write layout tab, and then we write data tab. We open this less than sign, and then the first thing you get is what? Variable. And you press enter. So it auto generates for you the name and the type. Now for the name, we will call it beneficiary. And for the type, you write bene and then control space. And then you should get the first class you get will be the CMPS 312 beneficiary review model, and that's the one I want. So it is, the type is beneficiary, the name is beneficiary when I refer it from there. And then after the data, you paste the code of the layout. So the layout will be inside here. So this layout, you see now what I have a data and I have a layout. So I have these two nodes. The first node is the data, the second node is the layout, and the layout is of course now going to get the data from this data. So let's start doing the binding. How do you do the binding? It's very simple again. You click, you open this one. I already have the data, and the data is saved inside an object called beneficiary, so I just need to use this. You search for the text. For example, in here, this is beneficiary name. It's called Ben Name TV. And I don't even need to remember this any longer because I'm doing data binding, okay? I'll search the place that says text. This is the text. And I will say, hey, you should get your text from @ open two curly brackets, beneficiary dot name. So now, khalas, it's bound. So which means anytime I load my layouts, if I provide the binding and I give it a beneficiary object, the layout is smart enough to get the name from there. So it will say, okay, I'm going to get the name from this object and then set it here. Okay. All right, so let's now do the second step, which is the account ID, which is at the end you will find the account ID. And the account ID, the same thing. We will write @. So we'll find the place that says Android text, and then we put like this @ 2: open beneficiary dot, and then we will put account number. So these are the only two information we are displaying now, and they will be displayed. One will be displayed here, the other one will be displayed there. Okay, and you are done. So this is the data binding. It's that easy. If you have 10 boxes, you should go to the 10 boxes and then give each one what it refers to. So for example, this one is the beneficiary name, I gave it the name. This is referring to the account, I gave it account. Okay, so these are the only two information I was asked to display. So I will display them like that. If they ask me to display more information, then of course I need to design it here first and then add those displays later. All right, so I'm done with this. I'll close it. And now it's time to link them and see how it will look in my recycler view. So let's go ahead and open the beneficiary list, not item, but the beneficiary list fragment. So this is the one that has recycler view. I will split the code, and in the recycler view, which is this one, I will type this. This is not necessary, by the way. It's just a way to see or visualize how my list will look like. And there is something called tools list item, and I will select my beneficiary list item, and they will look something like this now, which means I like it the way it looks. If I don't like the way it looks, I can go back to my list item layout design and then fix some more stuff. But now this is like a visualization tool. It doesn't mean this will be auto-generated if you run your application, by the way. It just means that you can visualize now how it will look. If your application were to generate 10 items, they will look exactly like this. Okay, so now let's go to the next step, which is the activity main. Now I have designed my designs. Of course, this you have to do now, the design of beneficiary lists, the design of details, and the design of add, all of them. But I'm not, we're not doing that now. We will just focus first on the list only, and then we will come back and fix the other ones. Okay, so let's go to the now activity main. Activity main needs to inject this navigation graph that we created. So I have the design of all of the navigation graph, and I can see it here. You see here now, this is my list. So just imagine that we also designed all of this, guys. We have the design for all the three. And then you just need to take this navigation graph with all its design and inject it inside your layout, okay, in your activity main. So how do you inject it? You search for something called navigation host fragment. You drag it and drop it here. And then the first thing you get is what? The nav graph. And I will inject it, and that's it. Now my navigation graph is injected. The only thing I need is to constrain it. Of course, you can by clicking this plus icons, and then they will be constrained from left, right, top, bottom. If you want the thing to go down a little bit, you can of course always play with the bias. But in our case, we don't want to play with any of this. We just want everything to be 0. So let me put that 0 or 50, sorry. Okay, yeah, that's it. So I'll put this also here. That's it. So I have my navigation host is now containing. I injected my fragment nav host into my activity main. Okay, so this is something to celebrate, which is I should run my application now to check if this is really happening or not. Okay, so don't move now to the next step without really testing this part, because you have now designed your layouts, you have added many things, so you want to make sure that your application is actually running and it's not broken. So it says error running beneficiary this. It says beneficiary app review not found. So I have an error here. And the error is actually, I know what's the error. The error is here. I am selecting what? Beneficiary repo KT, which I should not be selecting. I should select what? The app. So that was just a testing using Kotlin. Sometimes if you want to test some code and you don't know, let's say, how to filter something, you can write a simple Kotlin code without Android and then test that Kotlin code. What I mean is this. For example, I wanna remember how to how to write something like a loop or something, or how to print. So I don't remember how to write a loop, so I could test here some looping. Okay, so you could, for example, say 1 dot dot to 10, and then dot, and then for each num is print, and then num. So you could have like some tests that you write here to check if this is if this is what you want. Okay, so and then run this type of code later. Now, of course, this is not my idea now, but you can of course run it by right clicking and then run this part, and then this will run for you, and then you can remove this code and then bring back app. Okay, instead of using the beneficiary kit, you will use now the app and run your application. Okay, so now I'll stop it. I will run again, and hopefully this time it should run because I'm running the app. Let's see, it successfully run, and I have my plus icon here, the floating action bar, and it says beneficiary app review here. Everything is working so far, which is perfect for me. Now I can focus now creating the navigations, creating the getting, and creating the view models. Okay, so let's see if everything is clear so far. I will put a vote, and if it's clear, please say it's clear. If it's not clear and you have question, clear so far, and let's see. Yes, okay. All right.
Doctor, can I see the main activity where you added the...
Okay. So I just added one navigation host. So I said nav host. When I dragged and dropped it here, it gave me this, and then I selected and I pressed OK. That's it. That's all I did. Okay,
shouldn't we be adding or setting like the navigation in the navigation controller and all that stuff right now, or did you do that yet or not?
Navigation controller. What should we add? Sorry.
Like, did you add anything for the navigation controlling in the main activity fragment, like main activity class?
No, I haven't done anything.
Okay.
I just dragged the nav host, dragged it here, dropped it, and that's it. I have not done anything else. So when you run your application, you just see this screen, which is empty screen. Okay, and now we will work on the next part. So let's go and take maybe a 5-minute break and pray Asr prayer, and then come back. Once we come back, we will make this thing now work, which is we will try to list the items, okay, using of course our view model, and we'll also create the adapter and so on. So when you come back, we will do that. Please go take a 5-minute break, inshallah, and then we'll come back. Okay. And
okay.
Only 4 people responded to the form. Can we check more? If by the way, you can type no and ask question if it's not. All right. Khalas, inshallah. See you in. Let's take 8 minutes. 20, okay? Just come before 20, but like the last, you will be 20. 20, I will start. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, let's see if everyone is back. Okay, would you please vote if you are back? If everyone is back, let's see. Like, so I'm not gonna start before everyone is here. Okay, we only have 4 people back. Okay, let's just wait 1 more minute and then we'll start. So if you are back, please vote. If you are back, because we have here 9, but 5 are missing. I think we have like 10. Now we have 12 people in the lab. So let's have like at least 12 votes. Okay. All right, I think we don't have a lot of time and others are not voting, so we'll just continue, okay? You should continue. All right, then now go to the, what did we do so far? What we did is we added all of our dependencies, okay? And then we designed our navigation graph. And after we designed our navigation graph, we created the layouts for those fragments that we created, which are those ones, the destinations. And then we went to the activity main and added that graph into the activity main by dragging a nav host. Okay. Now the next step is to make this thing alive. So far everything is just showing, but we need to bring data, populate the data, and so on. So we'll start with the list. Okay. So before starting with the list, let's organize our code a bit better. So right click, new, and create a package called UI. And let's drag everything except the main. So all of my fragments, I'm just going to move them inside this UI package. Okay. So my code is now a bit more organized. And inside the UI package, now we will focus first on the list fragment. So when you create a list, okay, actually let's focus on all of them because we have so much code that we don't need auto generator. So let's do some cleaning first. So first double click on the add, search for this thing that says r.layout.beneficiary. So this is the only line we need. All of the rest of the code here, we don't need it, okay? So we'll copy the layout that's used by this fragment, which is this layout, and I will delete everything inside the class except the closing and opening. Okay, and I will also delete everything above it. And the layout that I copied, I'll paste it in the constructor. So it will be something like this: class, add beneficiary, the layout, nothing else. Okay, and then save. Do this for the third and for the fourth one. So I will just copy the art of the layout for this fragment, copy, delete everything, and then paste in the constructor and also delete everything above it. Okay, save. If it changed to a class C, that means you did everything correctly. You should not have anything else except the layout that's being passed here. Okay, I will continue doing this. All right, so now we have, I cleaned my code. This is update beneficiary. It takes the update fragment, and the beneficiary list takes this one takes the details, and this one takes the add. Okay, so I'm going to start now with the list, and this is where we are going to start. So to list, what do we need? We need a couple of things. First of all, we need an adapter, and the next thing we need is, of course, the view model that's going to give us the data. So for this to work, we need these two things. So let's do those. So in the beneficiary list fragment, first let's create the adapter. So say right click new and then package, and let's call this package adapter. And also let's create another package and we call it the view model. So I have the view model and the adapter for my list. Okay, this view model will be shared by all of my fragments, so I'm just going to keep it here in its own package. Go to the adapter and then right click new. First of all, let me copy this name, the beneficiary, because I don't want to type it. Right click new and then Kotlin file class, and inside the class you create this beneficiary adapter. Okay, so we'll say the beneficiary list adapter or beneficiary adapter. It's up to you, it doesn't matter. All right, so I like beneficiary adapter, so I'll say class enter. So I have this beneficiary adapter now, and the adapter will not receive anything now, but eventually we will make it receive something. Okay, but it has to extend recycler view dot, and then you have to say adapter, so it should extend the recycler, and we know that recycler view adapter expects you to pass a view holder. So we'll say beneficiary view holder. Of course, I don't have this class, so I have to now generate this class by clicking here, and I will hover over this class. It says, oh, do you want to change the constructor? Yeah, okay, first of all, put this two curly brackets or two brackets. Okay, so now I have some errors. I'm gonna do some reverse engineering, which is I'll create this class beneficiary view holder, and I will create it here. I don't want it to create in a separate class and separate file. No, in outside of the class. No, I want to create it inside this class adapter. So it creates for me the class. Okay, one thing is done. The next step is now to again go to this error, and then I will say implement member methods, and I will select the 3 and then Control A and then press enter. All right, so I'm almost there. It says this, we have to of course do this. We'll be coming to all of these things. Okay, so now let's start with our implement member methods still on bind view holder. Okay, sorry about this. So just keep it like this. Okay, we will fix it later. Holder beneficiary view holder. So now this class that you see, it has to first of all, it has to be an inner class. So it will be able to access the properties of this class. If you don't create something as an inner, then you will not be able to access the properties, okay, of the class. It's as if this class is a completely different class and this is a different class. So, but if you want the class to be a class that can access the properties of this class, then that's an inner. All right, so let's continue. For
Doctor,
this class,
Doctor, how did you get these the functions? Yes, test please.
So I don't have this class, or I just extended first this, and I imagined what my view holder name should be. So when I hover over my mouse, it gives me create right here. So I say create, I selected this, the class is created. Then still I have an error. I will put this in the mouse here, and then it says implement member methods. I click on implement member methods, I select all, and then I press OK. So they are auto-generated for me, all of the 3 methods we need. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now we will make this one inner class, and then we will also extend recycler view dot view holder. So you need to extend this as a view holder, but of course view holder accepts the view holder accepts here what? It accepts a view. Now, because we did data binding, if you all of you remember, for our list item, we did data binding, right? For the list item, we did some data binding. And when you create data binding, there are some classes auto-generated for you called binding. So this is auto-generated for me. So I need to use this binding in my view holder. Sorry, in my view holder. Okay, so I'll say the view holder will be receiving a binding. So I'll say the view holder will receive a binding of type beneficiary list item binding. So I'll say you receive this, and then I will pass the binding dot root to the recycler view. Okay. Still, this is complaining because it says, hey, import. I will say import, and it will just add adapter so in front of it, which is fine. Yani it will say beneficiary dot this. This is the class basically that you need, which is this one. All right, so I have my view holder created, and my view holder now will have only one function, and that function will be called bind, and it will take a beneficiary object. So if I write beneficiary, this one, so let's say, for example, it will take one beneficiary object, and it will use the binding. I cannot access binding because this is not a val or a var. You have to create as a val or a var to be able to access it. Then I will write now binding dot, you see there is beneficiary, the one we created in the list item. In the list item, I don't know if you remember this, but in the list item, we have what? We have one variable called beneficiary. So we want to give this beneficiary the object, okay? So in the adapter now we will say binding dot beneficiary equals to beneficiary. So it means it will automatically do for us if you call this method and you use the bind and pass to it a beneficiary object, the layout will do the rest of the magic for you. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so this is done. I'm done now with my binding. And what's the mistake? Make it private. Yeah, it's fine, no problem. It's private. Okay, so the next step is to to inflate and do the binding here. So the onCreate view holder, usually you have to inflate.
Doctor?
Oh, yeah.
Now binding dot root, what does it mean?
What?
Binding dot root. Recycler view dot view holder takes
yeah.
binding.
So binding dot root means the layout. You remember we used to do this? We
Yes.
used to have the item view.
Yeah.
View, and then we used to pass item view here, right?
Yes, right.
Now that item view is the root. It's found inside binding dot root. That is the item view.
Okay. But how can he knows which view, which root, which layout?
Now we will tell it which layout here. In the onCreate view holder, we have to tell it which layout, okay? Because we need to create this binding. So you can copy this line, the line that says val binding, beneficiary binding, just copy it, paste it here, and then now we create this one, okay? Because this one is not known yet, as you say. Equals to, then you say data util, data binding util, dot inflate, and now we will start telling it what this means, okay? Because we will pass this to this class. Eventually, that's what we will do. This class doesn't know anything. We will do this here, and then we pass it to this class, so this class knows which layout it's inflating. So we'll say binding. By the way, this is what I copied. I said copy paste, and then I say data binding util dot inflate. What are you inflating? I will say layout inflator dot from. Then you say parent dot context. That's where I will get the context from. The next is the layout. So I will say r dot layout dot, and you need to of course import r, otherwise it will not work. So r dot layout dot, you see the beneficiary list item. The next step is to pass this to information. So I'll pass the parent, which is already given to you, and I will pass false. That's it. So if you pass this for information, now you have your proper binding done. Okay. And once you have the binding, you just have to return now this class, the view holder class, because you will say return the view holder class which accepts a binding, and I have already created the binding. So this is the step you need to do, and which is the, I think the hardest part in maybe a recycler view is this, and it's always the same. And it's always the same. You will just write layout inflator from the layout you want to give the parent the false, okay? And that's why now creating adapter is so easy. Sometimes you feel like you are repeating yourself again and again because it's exactly the same. The next step is this two classes. So this class is the one that's going to call the bind function. And I will actually delete everything and just write it in one line. I will say equals, and I have this holder object given to me, and holder object is of type what? Of this class. So I can use this object to call the bind method. So I'll say holder dot bind, and I already know the position. So I need, first of all, data. What we are missing, actually, we forgot to do is we need to have a list of beneficiaries somewhere here. So I'll say val beneficiaries equals to list of, and then here beneficiary. So we'll have some list somewhere like this, and we will take that list and then take one of at a specific position. So I'll say bind to this position. So you see, I have a position, I have a list of beneficiaries in my class. So I'll say go ahead and bind the one of the beneficiary object at this position. So it will go ahead, go to the list, get the beneficiary at that position, and do the binding. And it will continue doing this until it finds all of them. How about this method then? This method is also as one line. So you could say equals, and I would say beneficiaries dot size. So that's it. You see, these two methods are a single line, and this is the one you write the most maybe, and this is also almost always the same. So if you really copy paste this and reuse it all the time, this 3 lines, it's always the same. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe the only difference will be this this layout, but everything else is always written the same way. And of course, the name will be different. So if it's a customer, it will be customer. If it's a student, it will be student. Okay, but other than that, this is like a very static way of writing recycler view. Okay. All right, now we need a couple more things. Not a couple more things, but you know, like we used to pass our beneficiaries through the constructor here, if you remember. But now we are not passing it because the data will come from the server, and once we get the data, we will update this beneficiary. So how could we do something like this? First, we need to make this as a var, and we need to create for it a setter. So we'll say set, and then here, which means I don't know the value now, but once I know the value, I'm going to give you the value. Okay, so that's what you need to do. So you'll say Ctrl Shift F, now format it, and I would say if the value comes, just do field the field equals to the value, whatever I pass to you. So from outside, we will observe our adapter, our view model, and once the data comes, we will call the beneficiary adapter dot beneficiaries equals some value, and then it will set for us the value to this one. And as soon as the value changes, we need to say what? Notify dataset change. So the adapter now goes back and regenerates everything. Okay. So this is like a setter and a getter, you know, like setters and getters for a specific property of a class. The way we write it in Kotlin is like this. We will, below the property, we write set. And if you want a getter, you just write get. But of course, this will be useless because already you can get it by using the name. So even setters are useless, by the way, unless you have more code. In our case, we have more code which says data notify dataset change. If this was not here, look, even Kotlin will tell you, hey, you are doing something useless, remove redundant setter. So it will ask you to remove it because you don't need actually a setter, because automatically you can call the name equals to something, or you can use the name to get. But of course, we are doing some more thing, which is notify dataset change. That's why we need the setter now. All right, so that's it. We are done with our adapter. Our adapter is ready to be used. Let's go ahead and use our adapter. And where are we going to use our adapter? We will use it in the list fragment. Okay. So here we have the list fragment, and here we will start now using our adapter and inject this adapter to the recycler view that we have inside the beneficiaries list. And so we will first need to override the onViewCreated method, okay, function, the onViewCreated function. And in this function now we will find the recycler view. So we'll say beneficiary recycler view dot apply. And in here, beneficiary, usually the recycler view have two things, right? It has the adapter and it has the layout manager. So these two things you need to give it. Now let's declare the adapter outside, because we're going to reuse this adapter to send data. So I'll say val adapt beneficiary adapter, and I will say equals to beneficiary adapter. Okay, and open close. So now I have the adapter outside, and I will say adapter equals to this beneficiary adapter, because I'm going to reuse this adapter to notify, like I want to do something like this later. Remember, once we get the data, we will do beneficiaries equals to the new data. So that way, the beneficiary adapter will then notify the adapter to reload. But of course, I need to have the reference of this adapter. Otherwise, I cannot call the methods declared inside this adapter. Okay. So that's what I did. I have my adapter done, and my layout manager is layout manager dot okay, sorry, linear layout manager, and you should just say this in context. Okay, and you are done. That's it. That's a recycler view. Everything is set up. Only the recycler view now needs data. And the moment you give the data to the recycler view will automatically load the data. Okay. So now where is our data? Our data should be from view models, right? So the view model is the only one who is allowed to talk to the repository. Of course, I could have shown you now, if I go and get the data from this beneficiary repo, it will immediately display for me, which is not what we want basically, but I could have done that. Yani. What I mean is, I could have added the data from beneficiary repository, but of course that's not what we want. We want to get the data from the server, and we want to get it through the view model. So let's go ahead and now create our view model. I'll copy this name, the beneficiary part, right click, new, Kotlin file class beneficiary view model, and create the class. Okay. Now let's extend something. We'll say we'll extend a view model. Okay, and you have to of course put it like that. And then what is the only data we need so far is beneficiaries. So we will have like var underscore beneficiaries, okay? And this is going to be a mutable life data. So let's first of all wait for this. Before we do this, let's go and write a method, a function called get beneficiaries. And what this will do is that it will have a coroutine. It will return for us a live data by using some sort of coroutine. Okay, so let's do that. We will say equals to live data, and I will remove this. By the way, this is a coroutine now. And in coroutines, we write, if you are using live data, you have to write emit. Emit means return. We don't type return like that. We don't want to write return live data. We want to actually do emit, which means it's like returning, okay? We want to emit. What we want to emit is the repository, or we call it beneficiary repository dot and get beneficiaries. So you see, we will call that method, this method that we created inside the repository, and it will give us the data of beneficiaries, right? I will get that data and I will emit it, which means this function can return back what? A live data of beneficiaries. Now, I would save this live data here inside a private. You have to always create private, and you say var and underscore. This is how we decide it's private. We usually use this underscore. Another way to say this field is private. Equals, we will say get beneficiaries. And I don't want live data. I want this to be a mutable live data. So I will write in front of it as mutable live data, which means it is a data that can be modified. Okay, you see, now that's it. So I have my mutable live data, and then I have to give the people a way to access this data. And the way I will give a way to access this data is, for example, this one is saying make it private, because nobody is going to use this outside of this class. So I will make it private. Then I will say var, sorry, val, and then let's call it the same name, okay, but no underscore. So this is the public access. So if anyone want to access the data from here, they should call this beneficiary. And by the way, it's not beneficiary, it's supposed to be beneficiaries, because we are doing like, we're getting beneficiaries, so name it beneficiaries. So I'll say val beneficiaries, this one doesn't have underscore, by the way, equals to underscore this beneficiaries, okay? But I don't want to return mutable live data, so I will say this is actually a live data, and it will be a live data of list, and it will be beneficiary. Okay, or let's just call it as live data. Okay, data of beneficiaries.
Doctor, could you repeat the view model? And when we should use the view model, and when should we use an activity view model?
Okay, so when you use view model, and here I don't have anything related to context, right? For example, if you want to toast a message here, let's see. I want to toast a message. Toasting a message needs what?
Context.
It needs the context, right? So I'm not in my class, as long as I don't have any context, I will use what? View model. If I need a context in my view model, okay, then I will use what?
Activity model, view model.
The Android view model.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this will of course force me to add the constructor application, which means this is actually the context. So this is the context.
I need it. So it depends on if I need the context or not.
If you don't need a context, then you don't need this this one. So you use the view model instead, okay?
Okay.
All right, so now what we do is that we have this private beneficiary as a live data, and then we return back this beneficiaries. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so and we are done basically. So we have a list, and if they want to access it, they can we will return back to them like this. And if anyone want to observe this list, they can observe it here. Okay. Now there is we have so many things that are imported, we deleted, and it's in a lot of classes. Like here, for example, I have so many imports that I need to delete. Now you don't have to do it one by one. You can click on the app, you can right click and then just say optimize import at the app level, and then it will remove from every class the unnecessary code for you, the imports. Okay, this is a very nice trick. Next is that now we have the data. Let's go and use this data. Okay, you remember our lists fragment now needs data, and let's inject that data. How do we inject it? We will say val beneficiary view. Okay, I will write it beneficiary view model. So I'll say beneficiary view model, and this is a type of beneficiary view model. Of course, the type is beneficiary view model. So I will have to type now the same thing. Beneficiary view model by activity view models. Now, why am I using activity view model? Because it's a shared one. So when you are using a shared one, now you have to use the activity view model. If you are not using the shared one, you can just use by view models. Okay. Shared means all of these guys, they will be using the same one. So if this guy modifies using activity view model, so all of us, the data will be modified for all. Okay. All right, so I have beneficiary view model, and now if you remember, we can observe now. We will say beneficiary view model dot beneficiaries, and remember, this is the thing we are gonna get, because we are observing if this data changes. And when will this data change? Once this guy downloads the data, it will inject it as a mutable live data, and then immediately we get notified. It will say, hey, data has changed, go get it. And then I will say beneficiary dot, and it's important to then we say observe, and observe it has an owner. So you will use the life cycle owner, view life cycle owner. So I'll say it will be owned by this guy, and then we will put this curly brackets, open them. Now what does this mean? Let's discuss it. It means as soon as the data inside beneficiaries changes, I'm observing it, I'm listening to it. So it's like a button click listener. So you can listen to a button when a button is clicked, right? The same way you can listen to data by observing it. So we observe data, we set on click listener for buttons to listen until it's clicked. So now as soon as the data changes, we will be given the new data. Where is the new data? Here. We are given a list of beneficiary. Now that's the new data. What should we do with this new data? We give it to our adapter. We say, hey adapter, beneficiaries, this is the new data. So the new data is it, because it comes with this word that says it, and then we pass that it to the adapter. Now, when you pass to the adapter that, what happens? The adapter will set that value and then will notify itself. So it will regenerate everything again. Okay. And that's it. So now I think there is something to celebrate, which is we have done up to the listing of the data. So before moving to the next step, you have to run your application now. So, and we have to see somehow a list displayed. If we could see a list displayed, then we are doing something good. So we can go and move forward and keep on developing our app more and more and more. Okay, so we can see now Sarah and Abir, and the data is now generated. It's working, yeah. You see, now the data is working. My view model, everything is now connected, and everything is perfect. Okay. All right, so now let's then implement the deleting. So let's do like when the delete button is clicked, I want to delete something from my list. Again, remember, so far I have not worked with any of the retrofit stuff. So how can I now create the delete button? First of all, you need to understand how the delete works. So the delete is located in my list, right? So it's located inside this fragment, beneficiary list fragment in here. So I'll say there is actually it's not located here. It's located in the list item. The deleting is located in the list item. So, but who knows about the data? The person who knows about the data is this fragment, which is the list fragment. It's the one that's giving the adapter the data. Okay, so it should be this one who knows, who should be able to delete the data. So how do we do that? First, the data, who has the data is the view model. All of the data is here. So we need to be able to have a way to delete data from this view model. So we'll create a function for it. We'll say function delete beneficiary. I will just copy this and remove the last repo. So I'll say delete beneficiary, and we will be given a beneficiary. So I will have this delete beneficiary, where given a beneficiary, I'm able to delete the beneficiary from here. So how do you delete? You would say underscore beneficiaries dot value dot let value question mark dot let, and this means I want to get the data inside beneficiaries. Okay, when you do the let, you will be given all of the data that is saved inside this mutable live data. Now, how do you remove it? Because I have the list, you can do something like this: it minus beneficiary. So if you do something like this, it's smart enough to remove one element from the list. And we want to assign this new list to the beneficiaries dot value, beneficiaries dot value to be the list, the original list, minus this new beneficiary item. So it will remove that object from the list, and it will assign those new lists to the list of beneficiaries, which means now whoever that was listening will get a notification that the data has changed, and they will use this new data. Okay, so I created now delete. So also let's just, because we are already here, let's also put the add. So let's put the add beneficiary will be what? It will be exactly the same, but what? Only a plus here. So you see, delete and add are almost the same. So I will delete something and I can add something with a plus. I can delete something with a minus. Okay, but of course this method is who is going to use them. The delete will be used by the list fragment, and the add will be used by the add beneficiary fragment. Okay, but this is now my view model, and my view model now can give you all of this functionality. You can delete stuff, you can add stuff, you can get stuff. Okay, you can get a list of beneficiaries. All right, so once we do this, let's now go back to our beneficiary list fragment and try to use this. Okay, so in my beneficiary list fragment, let's create a function. So I'll minimize this, and I'll say there is a function, and this function we call it delete. I will just copy this name. I don't want to write again and again. Delete, and then I will paste this beneficiary, and then I will say I will get, of course, a beneficiary. And what we're going to do is we will call the view model, and then we say delete, and we pass to it whatever that's given to us. Okay, now because the delete button, the button of the delete, remember in the layout, if you go back, the button is here, the button is in the list, which means the adapter is the only one who knows when the button is clicked, right? when the button is clicked, the adapter knows the button is clicked, but the adapter cannot communicate with the view model. So the adapter needs to communicate with who? It needs to communicate with this list fragment. Okay, so we will say to the adapter will say, hey, I was this item needs to be deleted. So the adapter will be the one calling this delete beneficiary. Okay, and how would the adapter know about this delete method then? We need to tell the adapter, hey, there is a delete method, and the way we pass it is we put these two columns and then we say to the adapter, hey, take this delete, and whenever something is deleted, call this method with this line. Okay, now the adapter will call this method, pass to us that beneficiary that's supposed to be deleted, and what do? We go ahead and call the delete method in the view model, and because this guy is listening, as soon as the data changes, this guy again will call the adapter and say, hey, adapter, regenerate again, because there is the list has changed, and the adapter will change. So this is the process, basically, how everything is happening. Of course, we have an error here. Why? Because if you go to my beneficiary adapter, there is nothing. It doesn't accept anything. So we have to now make it accept a function. Okay. So we can make it accept a lambda function, and the way we write lambda function is that we will say val, the name, any name you can give it, by the way, it doesn't matter, and then you say colon, what it accepts a beneficiary, and does it return anything? No, so we will say arrow unit, and that's it. So now this function can accept another function as a parameter, and we will use this function to call whenever something is deleted. So how do we know when something is deleted? We know by the binding. You see the function that says bind? You can say now binding dot, the button name was what? Delete button dot set on click listener. And here now we will call that delete and then pass to the beneficiary that we have here. You see we have a beneficiary, we just pass that beneficiary. So what's happening is the delete button is clicked, the delete button is found inside the adapter. The adapter will say, okay, I will call this function that was given to me. It will call the function. But where is this function located? It's located in the list. And what is it doing? It's going to call the view model, and it will say view model dot delete beneficiary. So it's going to delete from there. Okay. Is it clear for everyone, or you have a question? Please ask if you have a question, because today is the revision day. Today is where you can ask any confusions or anything you did not understand. So from next week, inshallah, you will be like coming with a very good understanding and excited. Okay, and also, by the way, this Saturday you have a quiz, you have the exam, right? So it will be something like this, what you will be doing in the exam. Yes, somebody was asking. Amna, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you repeat the last thing that
Steps.
you say about, yeah.
Okay, so we want to delete something, okay?
Yeah.
Remember, this button is clicked now, but this button is found where? It's located inside the list, right? The list item.
Yes, right.
And who inflated the list item is the adapter, صح?
Yes.
So when the button is clicked, who knows about it is only the adapter. Okay, so the beneficiary view model, we have him here. So this is the beneficiary view model, and it's located in the list fragment. So what we're going to do is, for the adapter, we pass a method called delete beneficiary, okay? For the adapter. So the adapter can, whenever you want to delete something, call this method. Whenever you want to add something, call this method. So if there were more buttons, like edit, like add, like delete, I don't know, if there were some buttons in the list item, those buttons, their methods, you can implement them in the parent. So who is the parent? the list fragment, right? The list fragment is the one that's hosting all of this. So we will go ahead and create those functions here. So we created, by the way, there's multiple different implementations. You could maybe pass the view model entirely to the adapter. And then khalas, the adapter will use the view model.delete directly there. But this is more cleaner implementation. What I mean is, instead of passing now this delete, you could have passed a view model to the adapter, and the adapter can use this view model.delete beneficiary and delete it like that. Okay, but we don't want to do that. This is the better way to do it, which is you create your own function here in the list, and then you pass that function to the adapter. Now the adapter, when something is deleted, when somebody clicks on the delete button, then we use that delete function that's given to us to delete stuff. And we know what that function does. That function is doing this: beneficiary view model dot delete beneficiary. And what is that? Where is that method? It's the view model. So it will just delete one item from the list of here by doing this minus this. So as soon as the data changes, whoever is observing will be notified, right? We know that. That's the whole idea of a view model and live data. If you have a live data, that means people can observe the data. And in our case, here it's being observed. So this guy is observing it, which means he will get a notification of the new list. And now we will pass back that list to the adapter. Let's check now if everything works by clicking on the delete button. So we click on the delete button, it deletes stuff, and we click delete button, it deletes the stuff. Okay, so we did now the listing and the deleting. Now let's go ahead and implement the add button, where when they click on the add button, we first navigate them to the add fragment, and the add fragment, we read the data from the add fragment, and once we read the data from the add fragment, then we will send it to the view model. But of course here the view model, yeah, we have to call this method that says add beneficiary. Okay, all right, so let's do that. First of all, where is this located? It's the button, add button, is located in the list fragment. That's where we have created it. If you remember, here is the list fragment. Here I have the add button here, and the ID is called add btn. So let's go ahead and create a listener for that. So I'll go to the beneficiary list. Inside the on view created, I'll say btn dot set on click listener, and if somebody clicks on this, we just need to navigate now. All we have to do is just navigate to the add fragment, and the way we navigate is that we say find nav controller dot navigate, and you remember the action that we gave. What was the action? Who remembers the action to navigate to the add?
To add.
Yes, so we
Beneficiary.
called it to add beneficiary fragment. That's the ID. So we will say r.id to add beneficiary fragment, and that's it. Now we need to also celebrate this small successes, you know, before moving to a bigger one. And we did the delete, we could list it, and then we go to the add. So I will press now on the add button, and now I am in the add fragment. But of course the add fragment need to have a very nice design, and we don't want to do the design now. We already have the design given to you. So you can just go ahead and copy this fragment add beneficiary that I have already done it for you. So just copy it, copy that fragment, come back here, and or I think you can just open it if you don't want to get any. Copy this and then go back here into the add beneficiary fragment, split the code and replace it and save. All right, so now let's rerun again if our code is running properly. Because I have given you the design, you will find it in the design. And let's see now, when the user now clicks on delete, it works, it's listing, and then when I press on add, I can see the add fragment design. Okay, and now the user will of course give us here the name of the user. Let's say let's pick someone Huda, or so we'll have Huda, and then account number 123, and then they have some her ID number, and then we press on add. So when we press on the add button here, what should happen? First, we need to navigate back to the first to the list screen, and then we need to show the name Huda here. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So to do that, now we are in the add beneficiary, and in the add beneficiary, first we need to override the on view created, so we can read those boxes. You see, we need to be able to read the data from these three boxes, and these three fields create an object and then send that object to the view model. Okay, so now let's do that together, which is first let's get the view model, because we want to set that to the view model. We can say val beneficiary view model, and then beneficiary view model. So this is the by activity view model, because it is a shared view model. Okay, the next thing is we need to create a beneficiary object, because that's the object that we're going to use. So we will say var beneficiary. So we'll say colon beneficiary, and this is an empty object that we will be using to store all of our data. Unexpected token equals. This is equals, and I have a beneficiary object that's empty. And eventually what I want to do is, when the person clicks on the add btn, okay, and then I will say dot set on click listener, I need to read the data from these three boxes, put them inside this beneficiary, and call beneficiary view model dot add beneficiary and pass that data to it. So let's do those steps. First, we need to get the beneficiary dot name, and we also get beneficiary dot account, then beneficiary. So because we would use beneficiary many times, let's use the apply, and then let's say name equals to the ID of this. So what are the IDs? Let's go and check them. The ID of this guy is name EDT. The ID of this guy is account number EDT. The ID of this guy is CID EDT. So this button is now clicked, and the button is called add btn. Okay, that's why I called it add btn.set on click listener. So I'll say beneficiary.apply. I say the name is name EDT dot text dot toString. So that I'm done with the name. And the next one is account number EDT dot text dot toString. Okay, and the third one is the CID, and equals to CID EDT dot text dot toString. But because this is an integer, we need to say dot to int, because CID is an integer. Okay, and this is perfect now. Everything is working, and I will now, what's left is to send this beneficiary to my beneficiary view model. So I read the data, then I will say beneficiary view model dot add beneficiary, and I will send this beneficiary. Of course, now it's added, but the only thing now left is I need to navigate back. And the navigating back is because if I see my navigation graph, there is no connection between add. I did not put another connection like this. I did not put another connection like that. Because I don't have that connection, I can use another trick, which is I'll use the trick of the user pressing the back button. Okay, so I can programmatically do that by as if the user has pressed the back button, And let's go back to our add beneficiary fragment, and I would say activity, then you put question mark dot on back pressed. So this is as if they press the back button, which is this button. Huh? So this is how you can programmatically do this. So when this is pressed, it's as if you can execute this. So you add the beneficiary, then you go back. So this will show as if we have added that beneficiary. So let's check it. And now when we run it, we should be able to read the data, add to the view model, and then press back. Okay. Plus then we'll say Huda and 1 2 3 4 CID 1 2 3, and when we press on add, you see Huda has been added to the list, and now our application is coming together, so we can do now delete, list, and add. Okay, the update is exactly the same. You just need to create here an update method, and you should read it like the add method, of course, all the data, and then call one of the view models and display it back. Okay. All right. So, but with the time limitation, now let's go to the third step, which is retrofit and connecting our application to the server. Okay. So far, everything we have done is we are working with this data that I hard coded, and this is the trick. The trick is to not, you know, like to not eat the elephant at once, is to do it piece by piece, small, you know, like small steps. Those small steps, like you see, every time I even added my Gradle, that's, you have to, you know, appreciate those small steps, this progresses, and you need to make sure that progress that you made did not break your application. You do small more, another step, you run your application, you do another step, you run your application. But imagine I have a problem here and I forgot to put the F here, and I have another problem here. Maybe I forgot to put the ID here. Maybe I have another problem. So if they accumulate, it will be so hard to debug. Okay, so always avoid writing the whole application and then running it. It will be impossible to debug. Even I cannot debug application that is like completely broken in multiple places, because the errors, they sometimes depend on each other and they can confuse you. Okay, so always, you know, like celebrate this small success. You added something, okay, run it. Is it working? Yes. I will go to the next step. I'll create this, run it. Is it working? Yes. Then I will keep doing this and keep on building my application slowly, but small pieces. Okay, and if I get stuck, I know where I am stuck. I'm stuck in the layout, because everything before the layout was working. Then I will only focus on the layout and I will not worry about anywhere else in my application. All right, so now let's go ahead and change this data from this static data to become a more dynamic data. Okay, now if you remember yes,
you used press. We could also use navigate up, right?
yes, you could also navigate up. Yes, there are multiple ways. You could even connect in the navigation graph. You could have connected this like that, and then you will of course say pop to, and you can pop to beneficiary and then say inclusive, so which means up there. Okay, so there are many ways, but yeah, just try them different ways. But in our case, I thought that will be the quickest way, or maybe easiest way. All right, so let's create our service. So when we create retrofit, the first step is what? To create the service class. So I'm gonna create the service class a bit more faster because we are kind of running out of time. Now the service class is an interface, and it will be called beneficiary service. It's calling beneficiary service. My advice is to, you see today, mashallah, and we said so many beneficiary. I don't know, I will dream about it. Okay, so beneficiary, we have an interface. So this interface is a retrofit. So we have 4 methods now. We have to have the get, the add, the update, and the delete. All of these things usually you will be given you will be given like something like this, CMPS 312, and you are already given the oh my god, please Heroku work, because this is important. Yes, okay, it works. So you have the add, you have the get, beneficiary, add, update, and delete. So these are the methods we want, and you will be given, of course, a documentation like this, and you can use Postman to understand how everything works. For example, I want to see how get works when I get something like this. So I will get like the data like this. Of course, my data is not structured because I was doing something to test some random tests. So some of them have ID, some of them don't have. So don't worry about that. You can delete, of course, test the delete, test the add, test. Once you are happy with the way the server works and you understand the server, then you come back to your application and say, okay, now I know how this application works. So I will bring all of my URLs here, and now I will start designing for this URLs. Of course, I don't care about the base URL. You see, this is all the same. So this is called the base URL. The base URL will be this, and the other URLs will be from here to here. Okay, so retrofit will do the plus. Retrofit will take this base URL and it will add to it this URL. It will take the base URL, it will add to it this URL. Okay, so let's create the first one, which is the get. And if we are successful with the get, we will do the other ones. I'll say first, let's say function, and then we say get. I'm not gonna type anymore. Okay, and then we'll say get beneficiaries, and this get beneficiaries need to return back for us a list of beneficiaries. That's what we expect to happen. Okay, a list of beneficiaries. But of course, this get method to work, you need to write a lot of code. Now that code, we don't write it. We want retrofit to help us in writing the network connection, the conversion, everything. So, but for retrofit to do that, you have to tell retrofit the annotation. So you have to annotate. You will tell retrofit this is a get. This function is a get. So retrofit will say, okay, I'm gonna get you. So what is the URL? You will say the URL for the get is beneficiaries CID. So you give it the value here. Beneficiary say, okay, very good. So and then you say this part is dynamic. I'm gonna give you the value later, but I call it CID in my function. So I have to have now in my function a value. So let's say, for example, v, and the type is int. Okay, now what is this v? I want this v to be replaced by CID. So I have to tell it. I will say, hey, path, in the path CID is v. So v means this v. Please go ahead, and you have to keep importing, by the way. You will say in the path, the part that says CID, please replace it with this value. So V stands for CID. But of course, this is bad naming, so I'm gonna name both of them CID, which is easier. But please don't think that the name is decided here. Okay, so whatever you type here doesn't matter. What you type here is what matters, and it has to match the thing you typed here. These two need to match. Okay, so you are saying what you have here is this. So retrofit will go ahead and replace it. So if you pass 10001, it will say beneficiaries / 10001, and that's exactly what has been happening here. You see, we pass the customer's ID, and then we get that customer's list of beneficiaries. All right, so now I am done with my get method, and let's go ahead and maybe try to connect the get method to my repository. So I'll go to my repository class, and I have this get beneficiaries. Of course, I don't want this any longer. Now let's go create our retrofit object. So to create the retrofit object needs three things. One is called the base URL. The second one is the converter factory. And the third one is the service class. Okay, so we need to pass these three things to retrofit, and the retrofit can do the magic for us. Everything else retrofit will do it, but just give the retrofit this things. So in my case, I have the service class already done. I don't have these two things so far. So let me create them. So I'll say val base URL equals to, between two quotations, let's go back to our service. The base URL is this part, okay? So the similar part, we'll say, hey, retrofit, this is the base URL.
Could you paste it in the chat as well?
Huh?
Could you paste it in the chat as well?
Yes, by the way, it is last labs. Okay, I will paste it. So that's the base URL. And then the next one is, and I can also push my code, by the way, which is good. Nobody asked, which is perfect today. Lab 9. Maybe everyone is doing, or no one is doing. Inshallah, everyone is doing.
Inshallah, we are doing it.
Inshallah, that's the hope. So that's the base URL. The next step is the content. So the content that we are exchanging, we need to tell it. There is the content type that I will be exchanging with you is a type of application JSON. So I'm working with application JSON now, and I will say dot to media type. Now this to media type is coming from this library called OKHTTP. Of course, it doesn't come out of the box. And remember, if you are using JSON, you don't even need this, because JSON will automatically do this for you. But we are using Kotlin serialization, and that's why I put this content type. But if you go to the internet, majority of them are using JSON, and you might not see this given, okay? But like the idea is that to use what we were doing before without changing it, because I want to use the @serializable class. Okay, so the next step is the converter factory, because converter factory, now I can create it. Converter factory, and this is equal to the JSON. You see, this is the Kotlin serialization class JSON. I will say ignore unknown keys equals to true, because maybe my server has more properties than I need. Maybe my class needs only 4 properties, and the server is sending me 100 properties. Like there is a weather class, and you only care about the temperature. So you want to ignore everything beside the temperature. This is how you do it. You say JSON ignore this. The rest of the keys that I don't know about, ignore them. So which ones would it care about? Only the ones declared inside here. So it will try to extract these ones and ignore everything else, okay? All right, then I will do dot, okay? And then you have to now say as converter factory. So I want to use you as my converter factory, and it will say, hey, you need to pass to me the type, and I will pass here the type of the converter factory, which is a type application JSON, okay? Of course, you don't need to create this. You could have pasted this inside here, but no problem. Now, once you have this 3 data, like I have the converter, I have the base URL, and the class is already created. Now let's go ahead and create our service. So I'll say beneficiary service is equals, and then I will say by lazy, or I can say by lazy. By the way, lazy means this code will not run until somebody calls it, okay? So when you call it, that is the time this code will run. And now we want to return a retrofit object. So we'll say retrofit dot builder, and that's what you do, dot, and then you have the base URL, you have the add factory. So we'll say base URL, and what's our base URL? We already declared it there. And then we say dot, and then we will say the add converter factory, and we already have the converter factory done. And the last one is we say build, and then we say create, and in the create we will put the service class. And what is our service class? We have already created it here in the API. So we'll say beneficiary service, and it has to be : class Java. Now if I put them in different lines, they will look like this. So we'll say build this, and then let's put a build, and we can put create. So this is what it expects you to do, and immediately this is created. The class are created for you. All you have to do now is, you remember our function suspend was doing what? was returning beneficiaries, we can just do this, beneficiaries dot get beneficiaries. But of course, now we need to pass CID, and let's just create a static CID here. We can say var CID equals to 10001. Okay, so this is something hardcore, and you can just pass that CID here. Okay, so the other ones, they just say get beneficiaries and we automatically get it. But in reality, in real application, definitely this guy will be receiving something to get or do delete or update or whatnot. Okay. All right, so if everything goes well, that means our application at least now should be able to do what? The get. Maybe the delete will not work. The delete is not, and it will not work with the server, but it will work locally. But at least the getting of the data should work, because I connected my get beneficiaries function with the service. Did I change any other code? No, I don't need to change any other code, because the way I set up my code is they don't know where the data was coming from. They just knew they were getting data whenever they called get beneficiaries. But now I went ahead and made that data to come from the server. And this is the beauty of decoupling your application. Why were we spending so much time putting in different folders and different things, is to make sure that tomorrow if you want to throw away retrofit, the rest of the application does not break, because the rest of the application does not know about what? Retrofit, or how you're getting the data. Are you using retrofit? Are you using database? We don't know. We were just calling this guy get beneficiaries and we were getting data. Change that part to come from the server, and let's see if it works. Run again.
Doctor,
Yes.
so basically, the beneficiary service is with the class that has the service. The repository is going to use the beneficiary service, and then the view
Yes.
model is going to use the beneficiary repository, and then the views are going to use the view model.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the way it works. Now my application crashed, and let's see why my application is crashing. It's always like a good idea to filter. Inshallah, we'll be able to solve it. Sometimes it takes a lot of time, but no problem. Like, don't be scared to read errors. And I will put error, and usually the best word is to put CNPS this. And let's see now what is our error. It says illegal and call adapter utilities review beneficiary, and it says method services, and I have here, and it's saying beneficiary service dot get beneficiary ID. And okay, let's keep going. And caused by illegal color data retrofit. So my retrofit is not able to connect. I think I probably might know. So we forgot to add the network here also. So let's go ahead and add the network. Okay, so you have to say uses permission internet, because if you don't declare the permission, it might not also work. So let's declare the permission and see. Still it's crashing. And illegal argument exception, unable to call adapter to this beneficiary view model, and suspend this service. Okay. All right. So beneficiary service class, we build the factory. We have this is go to serve. Okay. So we have the create base service class. No.
API. Just want to make sure this is my error. Beneficiary, and then beneficiary 1. I just want to know it's the retrofit or something else. Okay, so it is the retrofit, which means I just need to focus here, and maybe there is something we are doing wrong. Okay, so we have get beneficiaries CID 1001, base URL, content type, yes, now service, we have the ID, add path, is coming from retrofit, and get list of beneficiary, and therefore application JSON to media type content package. So is it working for anyone? Those who are working, trying, or is it crashing for everybody?
Error.
A class first, model, beneficiary, add serializable, it's correct. Build, clean project. And build, rebuild. Okay. As we copy pasted some things, let's see. Share list item, split. CMPS lab beneficiary review model. It's working, it's correct. So problem is here, retrofit builder. Retrofit builder, base URL, add factory, this converter, then build and create service.
Did we, for example, miss a slash maybe in the base URL or something?
Maybe something like that is happening. But let's see. I think it's happening here. Let me go here and see. It's not able to find my class. I don't know why. It is supposed to be a list of beneficiary. Okay, now let's rerun it. Option get beneficiary equals.
Doctor, we're calling the function as suspend. But the suspend says that.
What?
The suspend says it's redundant. We're not actually using the suspend.
Yeah, I removed it, but I am surprised there is something here. Let's see. So JSON as factory content type. Did we miss something here? HTTPS banking API. And the CID is this. No, we're not missing it. It's just get beneficiaries. Beneficiary kit. Emit. We're emitting get beneficiaries. And the type is list beneficiary. So what's your problem?
Okay, let's see. Run closed. It's telling it cannot find my class data. Not the model. Share. Just wait. I have to create a database in Beneficiary view. Okay. Very strange. Let's see. Object, beneficiary, and run by lazy. The profit builder. Yes.
Should we create a coroutine for this?
Yeah, we did it. We did create a coroutine. Optimize import. Okay. Beneficiary service. Service. Okay.
Doctor, last time when we created the service, we set the beneficiaries in the service, the call methods as suspended.
Yeah, it's supposed to be suspend, but
we didn't set them here as suspended.
it's very strange what's up. But let's see. I'm going to try something, but it should have worked. Yani, let me see. Caused by review. Beneficiary get action. Oh,
Doctor, it worked for me.
it worked.
Yeah. So set the beneficiaries in the function, the get function in the beneficiary service class. It has to be set as suspend.
It was suspend class, right? Now when we did it?
No, it wasn't. And we did it in the repository, but we didn't set the
okay,
service.
here suspend.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God, it's supposed to be suspend. Yes, thank you. I saw suspend somewhere. I did hear suspend.
Yeah, here was suspend, but it was gray and it wasn't being
Yes,
used because that one was not suspended.
Yeah, because the error that is happening here was like, I don't know your class, repository class. You see, it's like saying, I don't know your class. Okay, that was it. Thank you for detecting that. So you see all of the repositories now. We downloaded them. Okay. And that's it. So we can now delete stuff. We cannot delete, actually, we just can list that. So let's try to implement the delete, and we can now do get and then suspend. This time at least let's not miss it. Delete beneficiaries, delete beneficiary, and path. And the way we do delete is we have to go to this path. We have to go to this path, and we will actually, what am I doing? We have to first give the path and put this one curly brackets, and I'm going to say account number, and this is where I'm going to delete it from. Okay, and I will say suspend function delete beneficiary. Now it expects you to pass two things. So one is CID, which is supposed to be an integer, and the other one is account number, which is supposed to be a string, right? Now we need to have path here for each one of them, CID and path, and this one will be now account number. Account, let's copy paste to account number. Okay. All right, so that's it. So I have now the delete beneficiary. Let me, it's telling me it's not used. Then I'm also making mistake in the name, so just let me fix it by copy pasting. So I have now delete beneficiary, a suspend function, of course, and then in this here we should now have suspend function get beneficiaries, and then we add the delete. So the delete, we will accept, they will give us a beneficiary account number to delete. So let's say string account number, and not string, I'm writing Java code now. String here. So you see now I have get a delete beneficiary here, delete beneficiary. And if you want to delete a beneficiary, we're going to call the bank service to delete beneficiary, but it accepts two things, right? So the CID and account number. So the CID, we already hard coded it here, and the account number, we are passing it here. So now I can now do delete account number string, then delete that beneficiary. All right, so now let's rerun it. And of course, we didn't link this to the adapter, so let's go and link this to the adapter. So sorry, to the view model. So in here, the UI, then view model, then inside this view model, we need to now introduce this method. So when you delete something, we don't just delete it from here immediately. We delete it first from the service. So we can now use bank beneficiary repo dot delete beneficiary, and then we pass the beneficiary dot account number, because that's how we designed it now. Okay, and this is of course a suspend function, so we have to run this code inside a coroutine. So we'll say view model scope dot, and then we would say launch, and inside this view model scope now we can do this type of deleting, and I will also put this both of them here. But of course, I don't want to do the deleting until this becomes successful. So what can you do? You can write now val underscore message equals to this, and this one will be now inside async. So I'll async, okay, but await, which means it will wait until this message comes. And of course, usually you write an if statement. If the message is successful, then delete it from here also. If the message is not successful, then you don't delete. But in our case, I don't want to do any checking due to time. I'll just do this log d, and I will display this message for you in the log. But in reality, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be listening to this message, and if it's successful, you delete also from here. If it's not successful, you have to display for the user saying that, hey, I was not able to delete anything for you. Now let's see how the delete function, still we have an error. It says, hey, I cannot display, because let's go to delete and then delete beneficiary. And in here, we have to have a return type. So the return type will be what? A string, which is successfully deleted the element, okay? And now it should, let's see, our adapter, our view model, sorry. In the view model now we can check the message. Say, okay, underscore message is async. You go ahead and delete something, and then we wait for you. And that's how you delete. Okay, for the add, we will also do the same thing. We'll say view model scope dot launch. And before adding this, we put it inside here. Before adding, we should call the add method, but let's do it later, that one. stop, run, and we have a crash now because of underscore message says invert unit string.
Doctor, I think you in the service you used get instead of delete
In the
as a function.
okay, yes, and the service is getting late, trying to rush. Yes, it's supposed to be delete. Okay, that's not actually one of the beneficiaries. Repository delete, account number await. Let's go to delete. Delete is account number this, it returns back this guy, and this is a function suspended, and it returns a string. What's your problem then? It says type mismatch, infer type is a unit, but string was expected. Oh, why is it a unit? Async beneficiary, delete beneficiary. I think I need to just do build and clean. It's and just I do it on it. Okay, so it was just build clean what we needed. So it cleaned. I displayed all of the accounts now, and if I delete an account like Jonas, you see they are deleting. And if we close our application now, let's close it back, and let's open. I'll press back button, and if I come back, it's loading the accounts. And in the server, it should just display me only the 4 accounts that are left because the others are deleted. Okay. And because I'm not paying for this server, that's why it's very slow. If you pay, if it's a paid server, of course, it will work much better, and the data will be coming very fast. Okay. Okay. Oh, somebody else also deleted.
Honestly, I was deleting as well.
You deleted all of them.
I forgot that
Okay,
this will
so-
actually change in the original place for everyone.
No, khalas. So khalas, it's all gone now. We don't have any data, so we have to implement a way to add now and add more data. So if you give me like 5 minutes, I can complete this for you. So you have it all. So do you want to complete it, or you are able to complete the rest, or we add the add method
Let's
here?
complete it quickly.
Okay, so let's have the add method is similar to this one, and please follow up with me if in case I make a mistake, because even me now I am almost at the age. Suspend function, add beneficiary. So let me copy this, call it add beneficiary, and of course the post is similar to this URL. This is what we do when we are posting. I'm getting it from here, by the way. Add is this, and then let's have add path. I'm just gonna copy this part because it's the same. And the last part is add body, because now we are sending an entire beneficiary account. Okay, so I'm gonna send an entire beneficiary account, and you have to import it. This. So now I have the beneficiary account. I go back here and I create one more, and this time it will be add. And what we will be receiving is actually entire beneficiary account. So we will receive like beneficiary, and what you pass here is CID and the beneficiary. So that's it. Now I have the add beneficiary. Where is it? Okay. Why is it not accepting? Delete. Oh, I'm calling delete. You see, I'm supposed to call add beneficiary. All right. Okay, so add beneficiary, we'll call the add beneficiary. And now let's go and link this to my view model. Okay, so in the view model, I will say similar thing we did here in the view model. First, you will have the val added beneficiary. So this is the added benefit. The added beneficiary is an async, and then we call the beneficiary repository dot add, and then we pass to it this beneficiary, and at the end we just wait. Okay, that whatever we get from here, we go ahead and add it to our list. If we don't get anything, of course we don't add anything. If we get something, which means there will be a return back value for us, and we get back a specific beneficiary, then we add it. Of course, I have an error because in my add beneficiary, I supposed to be returning back a beneficiary. Okay, so here you have to have a return back of beneficiary, because that's what the server does. The server, once you add something, it gives you back a beneficiary account, and you can go to the caller. This guy will return beneficiary account, and this guy again will return to this line of the view model. And the view model now will take that beneficiary that is added to the server and add it to our list of accounts. And if we run it now, hopefully everything should just work, and we should be able to add, delete. Of course, the update and other things, I will leave it for you because it's almost the same process. Okay, just the whole process that we did is exactly the same. Then let's add. Then add 1, 2, 3. Okay. It doesn't matter because I just want to stop now, add, and it's added here. Okay, you can delete, it's deleted. Okay, thank you very much, and I hope this lab kind of clarified for you everything, and I hope it helps you for the coming exam and the coming exams and project. So and sorry for keeping you the extra 5 minutes.
Thank you, Doctor. I just want to ask you, is it possible for